something else in here.
Remember last year.
Bruchim Aboyim B'Shem Irgin Shir. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Smith Shlita on the halachas of which materials require Tevilas Keilim. Whoever would like to have the great schus of sponsoring a shir, please call Irgin Shir Torah at 718-851-8651.
Someone asked recently, he had the new popular coffee cups. You take them into the car, it's very convenient. And the Matthias is that the inside is all plastic, and the outside has a metal outside to it. You have to toivel it. The assumption is that plastic does not require tefillah. Metal, of course, does. And the food, in this case, the hot coffee, touches only plastic, which is not required to be toiveled. How do you look at a keli? That's sort of a mixture of different material. Then we had a shaila of tongs people use in barbecues or grills. And the tongs themselves are metal. So the metal is chayiv and tefillah. But the tips, the actual part that touches the food, are all plastic coated. So it comes out that the food never touches anything but plastic and not metal. You have to table that type of tongs. And the question really is a little more simple. Why are we assuming plastic does not need tefillah? Why shouldn't plastic, today you have these hard plastics, Tupperware, they're sturdy, they're usable. I'm not talking about disposable, I'm talking about real kelim. Why shouldn't they be mechayiv in tefillah? And I guess we'll talk about the old question about disposable aluminum pans, and of course the most commonly asked question about different types of porcelain and china and bone china. But if you notice, the common denominator of these questions are really one simple question. Which materials require Tevilas Keilim? In other words, in the past we discussed electric appliances and what's considered a kli achila, a candy dish and a coffee maker, and all these questions from a different sugya. But today we're going to focus on one simple question: which material requires tefillah? Is plastic? Is Pyrex? Is bone china? Is porcelain? Something which is two different materials inside and outside. So l'chayra, this should be an easy job. I say l'chayra because it seems to be a pasuk in the Torah. We find in Parshas Matos, Lamed Aleph Chav Beis, where Yidden were victorious in their war against Midian, and they had what's only fair. They had the shalol, the loot that they took from the Goyim, and now the question is, what do you do with it? If you have kelim, then the assumption is these kelim are treif. So even though it's yours, but you can't use treif for kelim. So the pasuk describes what to do with kli eichel. In other words, if you take non-foods, that's fine. But if you take kli eichel, what do you do with it? So the pasuk is important to hear. Achas hazov, gold, golden kelim, as a kesef, silverware, and a choishes is kappa, v'sa barzel is iron, Esa bedil is tin, v'esa ifaras and lead. These 6 types of metal, the sheish matchais, you have the following instruction. Kol davar sheyavei ba'esh, whatever was used with fire, let's assume you have a metal, an iron grill, so the goyim roasted food on the fire, so the tarfis was made because of fire, directly from fire. Taviru ba'esh, you have to kasher it in fire. You can't just take the grill and put it in boiling water. You have to take the grill and put it back on fire. And as Rashi quotes the Gemara, the basic principle of kashering is kiboilei kach poltei. The way the tarfus went in, that's the way you extract it. If it got treif because of fire, get it out with fire. And then the Torah adds v'toher. And after you kasher it, will be toher. Now this, of course, as we mentioned, is the source of Tevilas Keilim, of kashering treifa kelim. But the obvious question is, very nice, we talk about treifa kelim. You have to kasher it. But where do we see you have to toivel a dish? And don't forget, our halacha is most negeya when you buy new kelim. New kelim are not treif. If it's not treif, why do you have to toivel it? So the Gemara adds that this is an avodah zarah daf ayin hamed beis, that there's one word that we see a reference to Tevilas Keilim, and that is the word v'toher. The Torah says you have to kasher it. Okay, so kasher it. Wonderful. Now it's kosher. What does that mean, v'toher? Is it tumah v'tahara? Zog the Gemara, yes. V'toher, hoisav l'cha kosav tahara acheres, you have to toivel something. So in other words, there are two different chiyuvim. First, you have to kasher it, extract the treif of blias, and even after you kasher it, now it's kosher, but you have to make it even more kosher by toiveling it. Now the reason for the tefillah, says the Taz in the beginning of Kuf Chaf, quoting Yerushalmi and Avodah Zarah Hey Tezvav, to bring it into Kedushas Yisrael. Don't forget, everything that we do, especially our foods, has to have Kedusha, and a Goyish Keli has no Kedusha. So to make sure our food stuff has Kedusha, we have to toivel besides kasher. And that of course explains the obvious question, if you have to toivel a Goyish Keli, why don't I toivel my screwdriver, my nail scissor? It's also made by Goyim. The answer is it's only regarding Kedushas Yisrael, and that's primarily by Kli Oichel. So the Chiyuv is a Chiyuv Tefillah for Kli Oichel. Now if you notice, the Chiyuv of Tefillah is based on a Pasuk, and that led almost all the Rishonim and almost all the Achrayim to believe that Tevilas Keilim is a mitzvah deraisa. Even though it's based on one word, v'toher, but that word is a word in the Torah. So the chiyuv of tefillah presumably is a chiyuv deraisa. Okay, there's a lot written about the Shitas HaRambam. He calls it a divrei seifim, and some say he holds it to Rabbanan, it's a smachta. But from the Shulchan Aruch, in two places, it's quite apparent that the Machaba assumes that Tevilas Keilim is a deraisa. In Sif Tes of Siman Kuf Chav, he discusses the case of a suffix, which is a mashkanti he took from a goy as a collateral. And the Mechaba, as the Poskim explain, assume we have a chiyuv to toivel it, even though it's a suffix. Now, had it been a chiyuv d'Rabbanan, we should assume sveika d'Rabbanan l'kula. The answer seems to be the Mechaba holds that Tevilas Keilim is deraisa, and even suffix is chayiv al sveika d'Raisa l'chum. There is a second source of the Mechaba holding that Tevilas Keilim is deraisa in Sif Yudal. He holds that you should not send a child, a cotton under bar mitzvah, to toivel dishes, because he's not neman on a mitzvah deraisa. Had it been a derabanan, pashtas maybe he is neman, but since it's deraisa, you have to make sure that you send a gadol, or if you want to send a cotton, you have to have a gadol oimer al gabav to make sure the job was done properly. Now this we could safely assume Tevilas Keilim is a mitzvah deraisa. Now let's talk tachlis, okay? You bought a ceramic dish, a earthenware kli cheres. You bought a candy dish that basically you don't use for hot food. You put in candies, you put in nuts. A ceramic earthenware dish, is that chayiv in tefillah? Question number 2, you have a wooden item, a wooden bowl, a wooden rolling pin that you use for the dough. And question number 3, you have stone. Today stoneware is very popular. You have a dish made of stone. So all of these 3 are kli oichel. They're all used in the preparation of food. Why shouldn't you toivel it? So the answer, l'chayr, should be very simple. Look at the pasuk, and then you'll see why. The Torah enumerates 6 metals are chayiv in tefillah. Doesn't that clearly imply that if it's not a metal, it's not chayiv in tefillah? Don't forget, we have a concept that we have throughout Shas, that if the Torah says 2 examples, Shnei ksum habayim ke'echad, ve'ein melamdim. If it says this, so maybe this is also this. But if it says this and this, so it implies this and this, but nothing else. Shnei ksum habayim ke'echad, ein melamdim, you can't expand it to other things. No, doesn't Seichel dictate that if you have a sheish ksum habayim ke'echad, if the Torah mentions 6 examples, that means dafka this 6. The fact that Torah went out of its way to say 6 is mashma 6 and not 7. And this is probably why the Rambam in Macholos Yisuris Perek Yud Zayin Halacha Vav, he says the chiyuv tefillah is only kli matchais, but wood or stone or kli cheres, even though they're kli oichel, are not chayiv in tefillah. Now the emphasis, the Rambam is based on a Gemara. The Gemara says in the same Daf Ayin Hayim at Beis, Rabbi Yitzchak bought a certain keli that an earthenware keli that he wanted to toivel. So he told him, why are you toiveling earthenware? The Torah says matchis, and kli adama, earthenware, is not matchis. So we're pretty comfortable to say wooden bowls, stone kelim, earthenware, ceramic, kli cheres is not chayiv in tefillah, even midrabanan. There's no chayiv whatsoever. Next question is a little more challenging. Today there are very many type of glass kelim, glass cups. There's Pyrex, there's Duralex. Is a glass item a kli oichel chayiv in tefillah? So you're probably wondering, what's the shaila? So I'll tell you, there's a pretty big shaila. We have two categories so far. Sheish matchas is a pasuk that's chayiv, and other materials, wood, stone, and cheres is potter. Which category does glass fit into? Obviously, glass is not metal. It's not in the Torah. Why don't we say the same attitude, sheish ksub mabayim ke'echad, only sheish matchas and not glass? And that l'chayr makes a lot of sense. And the truth is, you might say, well, we don't find the Torah speaking about glass. I don't know if they use glass. I don't know if they had glass. I don't know if it was discovered yet. But Lamais, how can the Torah speak about glass? So the answer is, okay, so the Torah does not say it's chayiv, so it's not chayiv. What do you have a right to say it's chayiv? And the emphasis is, that assumption is correct. That attitude is correct. But the Gemara itself, after the Gemara makes this distinction, sheish matchois is chayiv deraisa. Cheres is potter even midrabanan. Zog the Gemara, but klis chuchais, hoyel v'chin ishtabru, yesh lam takana, kechli matches damu. Rashi explained, and this is probably the key word for today, the most important feature of sheish matchais is that it's repairable. Metal, by nature, is malleable. It's easy to form, easy to shape. When a metal keli breaks, or you want to change it, you could smelt it or smelt it, whatever the process is, you soften it, and then you could either repair it, or you could reshape it and reform it. That's what the Gemara refers to as efshe b'hatocha. A metal item breaks, you could heat it and repair it. As opposed to that, when wood cracks, you have to either glue it or buy a new one. When cheres cracks, you can't just heat it, you have to grind it and start again. When stone breaks, again, you can't just smelt it, you have to repair it, glue it, or buy a new one. So the deciding factor is this item repairable? Is it efshe b'hatocha? Hatocha is like meituch, like smelting, like melting. Zok Gemara, the sheish matches is efshe b'hatocha. Wood, stone, and cheres is not. But glass is much more similar to metal. It's efshe b'hatocha. You know, when a glass cracks, if you want, you could smelt it and reconnect it, and it's fine. So the Gemara is saying a gewaltige chiddush, even though it's not matchis at all. But the fact that it's efshe b'hatocha, it has the main feature of metal, and kekli matchis dami. It's a meridica statement. It's considered as if it's metal. Now, this is the chiddush that we find regarding metal, regarding glass. The Aruch HaShulchan in Siv Chaf Hey has his understanding that chemically glass is very similar to metal. The fact that metal, you find a deposit of metal, you have to purify it, and the lashon is, it's lavash surah cheres, you have to change it into metal. You take from powder and make it into metal, gold or silver. Glass is the same thing. It's zikuk, v'tziruf, ke'esh, just like matchis. But be that as it may, the Shulchan Aruch begins our siman kuf chaf, that matchis is chayiv and tefillah, and glass is also chayiv and tefillah. So basically we have a third category. Sheish matchis is chayiv and tefillah, wood, stone, and cheres is potter totally, and glass is chayiv and tefillah. The big question is, what is the extent of the chayiv of glass? Is it a deraisa like metal? Or maybe no. The Torah does not say metal. Maybe it's only d'Rabbanan. So it's very hard to believe that glass should be a Chiyuv D'Oraisa if there's no mention in the Torah of glass. And that's why most poskim feel that glass is Chayiv only Midrabanan. Rather, some hold it's D'Oraisa because the Gemara says K'kli Matchus Dami, but that's very hard to accept. And I think the consensus of the poskim is that glass is Chayiv Midrabanan. The next question, which really should not be a question, but let's mention it anyhow, if you have a glass dish, Pyrex, Duralex, or crystal, and you are toiveling it, of course, like the Gemara says, do you make a bracha when you toivel glass? So you might say, well, it's not D'Oraisa. How could you make a bracha if it's not a Chiyuv D'Oraisa? But that doesn't seem to make sense, because Ner Chanukah and Megillas Esther and Tevilas Keilim and Dalet Minim on the rest of Sukkot are also not D'Oraisa. We make a bracha on a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, V'tzivanu is Leisaser. So just like you make a bracha on all mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, so up there are Chashulchan and Siv Chav Beis, that even though it's midrabanan, avada you make a bracha when you toivel glass. Now to my limited knowledge, it seems that no one disagrees. The fact that it's d'Rabbanan only affects maybe a suffix, but does not affect the fact that you make a bracha. The next question might sound simple, but is extremely challenging. And that brings us to the beauty of the sugya. When you learn properly, things that are simple are not simple, things that are not simple are very simple. But this is a perfect example. Today, in the recent probably 50 years since the Second World War, aluminum is very, very popular. Aluminum is a type of metal, and it's light, and it's strong. That's why they make planes out of it, and they make bicycles out of it. Bekitza, aluminum pots are very common. I'm not talking about disposable pans. We'll get to that at the end of this year. But I'm talking about an aluminum pot, a regular reusable pot. Do you have to toivel aluminum dishes, aluminum pots, or whatever it may be? So you're wondering, what's the shaila? It's metal. When you think about it, there's a big shaila. Till now, we were zeicha to see three categories of Tevilas Keilim. Number one, sheish matches. Number two, wood, bone, and cheres. And also glass. Which of the three does aluminum fit into? Aluminum is not wood and stone, that's for sure. Aluminum is definitely not glass. And aluminum is not sheish matches. Because you're looking again, you're not going to see aluminum in the Torah. It's sheish matches, and does not mention aluminum. And that's why the question is, maybe aluminum is not chayiv and tefillah at all. It's not sheish matches, it's not glass, it's more similar to bone and wood, because of the old principle of sheish ksum habayim ke'echad ve'ein melamdim. And indeed, Rav Moshe in Chelik Beis Yeridea Kuf Samach Dal was asked a different question. The question was asked by a kohen who wanted to travel on an airplane, and there was a mace in the cargo department. And the question is, does the plane conduct the tumah to the kohen? So Rav Moshe says, I was told, and that's the Metzias, that planes today are constructed of aluminum, and I'm not sure if aluminum is makabel tumah. Since the Torah says sheish matches, there's no mention of aluminum, maybe it's not chayiv. Then Rav Moshe adds, with his tremendous emunah, you'll say, how could the Torah speak about aluminum? Anybody who knows history knows aluminum was not discovered until much, much later. In fact, it was not used until the generation before ours. So how could the Torah speak about aluminum? They didn't have aluminum. So Moshe says, but the Baruch knew about aluminum. The Baruch knew that aluminum exists. The Torah should have said, matches is tamei, and then we would understand that aluminum is a matches. Because again, in property, aluminum is a matches. But the Torah enumerates sheish matches. Obviously, it's a sheish ksub mabayim ke'echad ve'ein melamdim. So gold and silver and tin and lead is chayiv, and aluminum is not chayiv. It's not makabel tumah. That's where Moshe seems to conclude. He does add that if you have a alloy, a mixture of, let's say, one of the sheish matches and other metals, then you go basar right. We'll soon see a good example is stainless steel. But basically, aluminum is not an alloy. Aluminum is a different type of metal. And therefore, Moshe says, he doesn't say this conclusively, but he does seem to imply that aluminum is definitely not mekabel tumah min haTorah. because it's simply not from Sheish Matchas. Now that whole tshuva is talking about Mekabalas Tumah regarding a Koyim. But in a subsequent tshuva, in Yeridei Keilim Gimel Siman Chav Beis, Rav Moshe was asked about a Kli aluminum, which is a Matchas Chadasha, is it Chayiv and Tefillah? And Rav Moshe says it's definitely not Chayiv and Tefillah min HaTorah. It's not Sheish Matchas, there's no source to say it's Chayiv. And the same Yisoid, that the fact that there says 6 is Sheish Ksum Bayim Ke'echad, the Rebbeinu Shalom knew about aluminum, the Rebbeinu Shalom could have written the Torah, Matchas is Chayiv, or a word alum, and we would know what it means for generations, and one day we'll discover it, and we'll say, oh, that's what it is. And but Rav Moshe does add, at the end of the tshuva, but aluminum is at least Chayiv midrabanan. What's the source? It's like glass. It's not worse than glass. Aluminum in its property is a metal, which is Efshe Batacha, so it's not worse than glass. If glass is Chayiv, even though it's basically a earthen powder, so Avad aluminum is also Chayiv, at least midrabanan. Rabbi Yankiv and Emes Yakov Simon Kufchav has a pretty long tshuva, and he also says that Avad aluminum is not Chayiv midaraisa, it's not from the Sheish Matchas. What's noteworthy, and I don't know how to make what to make of this, the Achashochan in Siv Chav Gimel, when he discusses the Chiv of Tevilas Keilim, l'chein kol kli matches, kol kli me'eza min matches shehu tzarech tefillah. Any keli from any type of metal is chayiv and tefillah. Now, does that mean to say any type of metal, including aluminum? I don't know if he even had aluminum, but he definitely doesn't mention that. The fact that he says kol kli me'eza min matches is chayiv, it seems maybe that he held that aluminum is chayiv. I saw the Chelkas Binyamin in Sif Aleph and the Biyurim. He points out that the Mechaba's Lashon is not 6 metals. The Mechaba in Sif Aleph says Kli Suda Shel Matches is chayiv and tefillah. So he seems to imply that maybe the Mechaba holds that even aluminum is chayiv deraisa, but it's certainly not a raya brura, because maybe he means to say matches, because you know what the matches. Look in the pasuk. But what interesting, Rabelsky in the Shulchan Halevi in Chavdal Sifkat and Lamed Ches, he says that aluminum is less of a chiyuv because it's not from the Sheish Matches. He quotes Reb Chaim Brisker that held that aluminum is potter even midrabanan, and then he adds, and he knew this very well, but anybody who knows any bit of chemistry knows that aluminum in its property is more similar to earthenware than it is to the Sheish Matches. Rabelsky was a chemist besides, so obviously he seemed to know that it's more similar to earthenware than aluminum than other metals. But Lamaisi, he does conclude, Beloishim Safik, the minig is to toivel aluminum, pots and pans, but definitely it's impossible to say it's a deraisa. The Torah said Sheish Matches, and that's not from the Sheish Matches. So Lamaisa, I will say that aluminum, it seems that the minig oilam, and that's the Askamas HaPoiskim, to toivel it, but it's not a deraisa. I saw one of the Heintige Svarim, he writes, Kli aluminum, and also Nerosate, which is stainless steel, is chayiv with tefillah midaraisa. So I was very surprised. Where did he get that? Okay, we'll soon see. Stainless steel, I know is chayiv deraisa because it's basically basically iron. But where did he get aluminum that's chayiv deraisa? So in the footnote he says achrayim upashut. So I think he's inaccurate in both words. I don't find any achron that says it's chayiv deraisa. And to say pashit is also not pashit. It's not pashit at all. So I think we could say it's the Rabbanon and not more than a Rabbanon. What to me was very interesting, do you make a bracha when you toivel aluminum pots or pans? So in the Sefer Tevilas Keilim, in Perikud Aleph, Hara Kufyud Gimel, he quotes Rav Vazna. He says, why not? It's not worse than glass. Glass is chayiv, the Rabbanon, you make a bracha. The Shulchan Alevi also assumes you make a bracha. But I saw in Rabbi Forrest to say for page 530, he quotes up Shleim Zalman Oyabach that since some consider that aluminum is even less than glass, because the Gemara does not say aluminum is chayiv, the Gemara says glass is chayiv, maybe taki should toiv aluminum below bracha. In other words, it comes out of Dav and Ifla that aluminum is less of a chayiv than even glass. Why? Because glass, the Gemara says is chayiv, the Mechaba says is chayiv, and there's no Gemara Mechaba that says aluminum. So Lamaisa, if someone wants to say that you should table aluminum avadi, you should, but the table b'loi bracha seems to be the safest course of action. Stainless steel today is very popular. Stainless steel is mostly iron, with other additives to make it stainless, and that's why we apply our Moshe's Yisoid, that when you have an alloy, you have a mixture, you go basaroid. So since it's predominantly iron, stainless steel is chayev midaraisa, and you're mechuyev to make a bracha, just like the sheish matchas. Better yet, stainless steel is primarily the iron of the sheish matchas, and that's the chayra pasha. Next question, which again sounds simple, but the question is, to which way is it simple? Is today is extremely common plastic utensils. Today you could have plastic cups. I'm not talking about disposable that you have when your children, they say don't break it. Tupperware, spatulas, mixing bowls, plastic, hard plastic that are not disposed of. Do you have to table plastic? So let's think. We're pretty informed today. We could pretty much speculate. We now have 4 categories of Tevilas Keilim groups. We have sheish matchas, it's a pasuk. Glass is chayiv midrabanan, it's a gemara. Aluminum is probably midrabanan, but it's not a pasuk. And then we have the non-chayiv of wood, stone, and klicheres. Now I'll ask you a simple question. To which category does plastic utensils belong to? So the intelligent question is, well, what's plastic? Tell me what it is, well, we could figure it out. So it's definitely not metal or aluminum. That's for sure, because it's not metal. It's definitely not wood or bone, because it's not. And it's surely not glass, because it's not glass. So what is plastic? So plastic is a petroleum. Now there are very many types of plastic. Plastic has tremendous usages. You'll look in your jacket, the lining of your jacket is polyester. Some people have suits that are polyester, there are clothing and there are shirts. Plastic today is an extremely usable item because of its different properties. But at the end of the day, depending on which plastic we're talking about, but plastic basically is a petroleum base. Now the question is, so what is it? It's not glass, it's not matches, it's not aluminum, it's not wood. So the most intelligent suggestion would be, but one second, we learned in the beginning, the Gemara, that the most defining characteristic of Chiyuv Tefillah is Efshe Batocha. When something is repairable, when something is malleable, it's Chayiv and Tefillah. Glass, which is basically from the ground, is Chayiv and Tefillah because it's like metal, the klimatis. Why? Hoyel v'chin ishtabru yeshlam takon. The word Efshe Batocha is the deciding factor. Now, anybody who knows anything knows that plastic is very much Efshe Batocha. That's the Metzias. Oy bazoi, we should assume that plastic is chayev midrabanan, just like glasses. And indeed, the Menchas Yitzchak, in 3 consecutive tshuvas, Chelik Gimel, Siman Ayin Vav, Ayin Zayin, Ayin Ches, Rav Weissachaynu Levracha, assumes that plastic is chayev midrabanan, because it's Efshe Batocha, Kekli Chsruches Dami. In the next tshuva, in Siman Ayin Zayin, he quotes a earlier sefer, the Oyel Avram. I don't have that, but that's a shag that quoted in Darkei Tshuva in part in Sifkat and Yudalit. The Oyel Avram had the following scenario. I guess in his times they started making kli etzem boneware that lamaisa was efshe batocha. Now we know the Rambam says that bone is potter. But in those days, they must have refined it and perfected it, that a boneware that's efshe batocha. Zok the Oyel Avram, that it's pashit, since it's efshe batocha, you're chayiv in tefillah, because that's what the Gemara says. So therefore it concludes, kam dina, the kli etzem, pshita shetzrich in tefillah. Now this is a chiddush, because we know the Rambam says kli etzem is potter. But Lamaisi is saying that if today you could repair Kli Etzem, it's Kli Matches Dami. And Kli Matches is Chayiv, because Kli is, it's just like Matches. So here we see the Menchas Yitzchak, and then in the third tshuva, in Siman Ayin Ches, he says don't make a brach on it, but plastic, Tupperware, and the like is chayiv midrabanan in tefillah. Now this is very logical, and I don't think anybody could argue on the metzias. But we could say poik chazim ayam adavar. People have plastic keilim, and I think the minigalim is not to toivel it. And the question is why. So Rav Henkin in a tshuva in Guras Eliyahu and Yeridei Simon Lamed Ches, who was written as earlier back as Tafshin Yud Dalet, Rav Henkin was also asked if you're chayiv to toivel plastic, and his basic assumption is that, don't forget, really sheish matchis is the extent of the chayiv tefillah. The Gemara said a gewaldige chiddush that glass is chayiv. We have to apply ein l'chabayah l'chidusha. The Gemara is mechayiv glass, but not more. Where do you have a right to say that plastic is chayiv? The Gemara never spoke about plastic. You could assume in theory that it's chayiv, but where do we have a chayiv? The next tshuva in Simon Lamates, he compares it to Hilchas Tumah, but his point is that if the Gemara was not mechayiv it, we don't have the jurisdiction of being mechayiv it. He quotes to Oyel Avram regarding Kli Etzem, and he says, Yesh La'ora, we could question his words. But Rabbi said the attitude that Rav Henkin takes seems to be the approach that all the Poskim take. We have to follow our Chazal. Chazal have a right al Sasa to make Chiyuvei D'Rabbanan, Natilas Yadayim, and Chanukah, and Purim. And guess what? Chazal were Mechayev Achiyev D'Rabbanan to toivel glass. But there's no mention about plastic. And the embassies, they didn't have plastic. That's true. But Lamaisa, they don't have it. And they don't Mechayev it. And Lamaisa, this is why Rav Henkin assumes that tefillah is not required for plastic. The Malamed Lahoyel, in Simon Mem Tesn Yeridei of W.C. Hoffman, he says, Yesh Lodon, since Kli's Chuchis is a Chiyuv, only because the Chazal said it, he says, any other min, even though it's F Shabbat Tocha, there's no Chiyuv of tefillah. And he directly argues on the Oyel Avram regarding Kli Etzem, even though today it's F Shabbat Tocha, but there's no Gemara. And the Gemara only was Mechayev Kli Zechuchis. The Chelkas Yankov in Yeridei Simon Memhei, also in that time in the 1950s, also one of the Delia Paiskim that was the trailblazer of Naya Shailas, he also says that even though in theory it's very similar to glass, but Ein Lanu Mi'atzmeinu L'chayvam B'Tfilah. And he brings two rayas, I'll mention one of them. We find in Hilchos Tzitzis, the Shulchan Aruch, in Simon Yud Gimel has the halacha, which is based on Rishayim. If someone's walking in a Carmelis on Shabbos, and his tzitzis are apostle, so if his tzitzis are apostle, he's really carrying. So he should take off the tzitzis right away. But says the Mechaba, based on Rishayim, to take off tzitzis, take off a talus in the street, is lacking kvayt abrius, because in those days, that was their beggar. So basically, to undress in the street is lacking kvayt abrius. So even though you're carrying, you're allowed to continue wearing it out kvayt abrius. Zok the Beis Yosef and Simon Yud Gimel. Today that we have regular garments and we just have a talus cotton, there's no big bizarre in taking off talus cotton. So take off your talus cotton and continue walking with the rest of your clothing. No one will even know. But Zok the Beis Yosef, since in those days it was a question of kvayt abrius, and Chazal said you're allowed to go with Pastel or tzitzis, we have no right to say today is different, and you have to take off the tzitzis. We have to follow halacha and not make our own. So what he's saying l'chayr is very, very pashut. In Tafshin Ayin Ches, we have no right to say, hear ye, there's a chiyuv d'rabbanan to toivel plastic. Not in Tafshin Ayin Ches, not in Taf Reish Ayin Ches, and not even in Taf Kuf Ayin Ches. We don't have the right to make not new gezeres. And don't forget, glass is a mitzvah d'rabbanan, no different than the Natilas Yadayim for bread and their Chanukah. Do we have a right to make a new mitzvah d'rabbanan? I'm talking about in the Achrayim, the early Achrayim. The Tzitz Eliezer in Simon Chelik Zayin, Lamed Zayin also says the same Yesod, and his point basically is we have no right to make new chiyuvim. In Chelik Ches, Simon Chava, he has the same conclusion. Chelik Dal, Simon Ches, He says, "No, hamachmir tavala bracha. If you want to do it, fine." But the point seems to be we don't have the right to make new chiyuv. I always give this mashal. Chazal will mechayev us. It's a chiyuv d'Rabbanan to put a blech on your fire. Shem b'yachat. You might adjust the flame. Okay, it's a pretty rare chashash. But to me, what's much more of a chiyuv, should be much more of a chiyuv, which is much more common, is to put a cover on the light switch in your bathroom. Because the person wakes up in the night, or in the morning, or impulsively, or reflexively, his hand moves up, and he puts the light on in the bathroom. Right? That's Chilul Shabbos. And what's worse is, when someone does that, he reflexively, when he realizes he put on the light, he closed the light. Which is even worse, because that he's doing a biyadayim. But do we say you have to have a chiyuv d'Rabbanan to put a blech on the light switch? Makes a lot of sense. But there's no such chiyuv. We could say it's suggested, highly suggested, it's rabbinically approved to have a light cover. But you can't make a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. So how could we come along and say that there's a new chiyuv starting whatever year it is, plastic is chayiv in tefillah. There's no such chiyuv. In the Sefer Tevilas Keilim, in Perek Yud Aleph, Ha'ara Kuf Tezvav, he quotes the Chazon Ish and Rav Moshe that also agreed that the minig is not the tevel plastic. So in other words, the assumption that it should be chayiv is correct. The reasoning is valid. But at the end of the day, we don't have the license to make new chiyuvei d'Rabbanan. We'll stick with glass. And here's the thing that really needs a little hezbollah. Where did aluminum get a chiyuv d'Rabbanan? What's the difference aluminum from plastic? If you tell me the Torah says 6 matchais, excluding aluminum, it's not chayiv d'Oraisa. Where did the mitzvah d'Rabbanan come from? In other words, if you tell me plastic is chayiv because it's similar, so aluminum also. But how do you differentiate between aluminum and plastic? So the answer has to be because it's metal. They didn't have it, so it's not part of the d'Oraisa. But it's not a different material. So aluminum is more similar to sheish matches, plastic is not, and therefore we now have 4 very different categories. Sheish matches is chayiv d'Oraisa, wood, stone, and cheres is pata entirely. Glass is chayiv midrabanan, and actually the 4th is aluminum is chayiv midrabanan. Now the 5th member of the club is plastic. Plastic is basically minigarim is not the tayvel hamachmir tavei levrach. And the last group of questions, in a certain sense, is the most common and in a certain sense the most challenging, is porcelain, china, or bone china. Now, typically in all catering halls they use porcelain. In many homes for Shabbos you have china dishes. Are those type of dishes chayiv in tefillah? Today you have ceramic, which is glazed. You have the inserts of a crock pot is a type of ceramic. So again, the intelligent approach is, well, tell me what it is. Then we'll know what to do. So basically, porcelain, china, bone china, ceramic are all basically kli cheres. It's all an earthenware type of keilim. The only difference is that it has a glazing to it. But basically, china, bone china, porcelain, ceramic are a bona fide kli cheres. And that's why the Yavitz, in the Shilas Yavitz, Siman Samach Zayin, when he was asked about porcelain, he spells this out, is it chayiv and tefillah? And he says, no. Zchuches is chayiv, but porcelain is pata because it is adama, it's a kli cheres. Kli cheres, the Gemara says, don't forget, we saw a Gemara that kli cheres is pata. The Aruch HaShulchan, who's a little later than the Yavitz in Sif Chavtes, he says, in our times, the Ikka Tashmishe Kli Suda is cheres, that's called porcelain, and I don't know why people are titling it. Kli cheres midina Gemara is pata from tefillah. So here we see an introduction into our sugya that porcelain is pata, kli cheres. It's basically beferish Gemara. Kli adam is pata. However, there's an important fact that you have to consider, because the Gemara in the same sugya in Ayin Zayin and Abai Dezar Ayin Hamad Beis Kunya, Rashi says a kli cheres that is plated or coated b'chayfen oisai b'chufya shel aver. You know, you had a kli cheres that they had a coating of lead. Chufya is lead, which is one of the sheish matches. So now you have a combination. The base of the keli is earthenware, but it's coated or plated with a sheish matchas material. So the Gemara says it's a machlokes amarayim. The hilchas that we paskin kesayfa. You look at the plating. If it's a metal plating, it's chayiv and tefillah. And the Mechaba in the beginning of our Simon Kuf Chav describes 3 types of kelim that are chayiv and tefillah. Listen to this: matchos, zechuchis, and metzupim be'eva mi befnim. If you have a earthenware keli, but the inside is plated with metal, one of the sheish matchos, you're chayiv and tefillah with the bracha. Why? Since the food touches the metal, it's like kli matchos. So now we have a new category, kli cheres, albeit, or wood, whatever it is. But if the plating is chayiv and tefillah, you disregard the base of the keli, you're chayiv to make a tefillah. Now the Pri Chadash in Sid Cotton Zayin says, if you look at the lashon of the Ramah makes the following comment: V'yesh oimer, he's arguing on the Mechaba, keil ma'atzupim be'aver afilu b'befnim yitval b'loi bracha. If you have a coated keli, even if it's coated in the inside, you taiva without the bracha. Zok the Pri Chadash and the Kivega and the Dagum Revava and the new Shulchan Aruch, it's printed on the page. He says the Ramah is arguing on 2 points on the Mechaba, and this is Negeya. First of all, the Mechaba holds if you have a plated in the inside only, you're chayiv to make a bracha on that. It's up to no. If it's only plated in the inside, not in the outside, you taivel it without a bracha. But more importantly, if you have a keli that's only plated on the outside, the inside is cheres, only on the outside, the Mechaba holds your pata. The Ramah says once you have any metal plating, even in the outside, you taivel it b'loi bracha. And that's basically the machlokes Mechaba Ramah. But as the Kivega points out, according to Pri Chadash, if you have a kli cheres, a bona fide kli cheres, which is pata gansen, and it's mitzupa aver mi befnim u mi bachutz, if it's coated inside and outside, all agree you're chayiv and tefillah with a bracha. If it's mitzupa aver mi befnim u mi bachutz, you're chayiv with a bracha. Zok to levush, the end of Sivkot and Vav, the chashiv kli matchiz gomer. It is a kli matchiz. The inside is cheres. Who cares about the inside? It's totally plated, coated with aver. It's chayiv with a bracha. Now this is basically the shita of the paiskim regarding a plated item. The shach is mefurish that, like I told you, if it's only on the outside or only on the inside, you don't make a bracha, but that's not our point. The main point that we have to hear is if it's mitzupa inside and outside, you chayiv tefillah with the bracha. Now, here, l'chayra, we should say that should apply to all of our cases. For example, china is plated outside and inside. A coffee mug is kli cheres. That's no doubt about it. But a coffee mug, you look at it, you feel it, it's plated inside and outside. So, but the question is, should we say that according to the Ramah, you have to table china, porcelain, coffee mugs with the bracha? So Amakit Taif, Rabbi Forst in the Sefer, on page 531, has a very thorough and very clear description of what we call today porcelain and china. Basically, there's no doubt about it that porcelain and china is essentially a kli cheres. The base of china, porcelain, and bone china is all the same. It's all earthenware cheres. The only difference is that on all of these, there is what's called a glaze. Now, we have to realize a glaze is like a covering. You have glazed donuts, right? It's glazed. But it's not, it's different than a tziput. Mitzupah that the Gemara in Shulchan Aruch speaks about is a layer. A layer means there's a discernible layer. Plus, the Gemara spoke about a layer of matchis, of aver, lead, that's matchis. When you have a layer of matchis, we could assume that it's chayiv and tefillah with the bracha. If it's mitzupah outside and inside with metal, so it's metal. Kiklimat chizdam. Our china, bone china, porcelain are fundamentally different. It's taka almost always mitzupah bechutz umi bafnim. It's always coated entirely. But there are two noticeable difference. It's not necessarily mitzupah, it's glazed, and I'll soon explain what that means. But more importantly, it's mitzupah with glass. Glass at most is the Rabbanan. So who said that when you have a glaze of glass, it's chayiv with the bracha? The Gemara speaks about mitzupah, aver. Then tak it's chayiv with the bracha. So basically, we are now have a new scenario that glazed with glass. What's the halacha? So this is all everything really we find mefurish. But one thing I want to say: if you have any keli that's only cheres, there's no reason to table it. But the metzias is it's highly unlikely, if maybe even stronger than that, but it's definitely highly unlikely that you're going to have a keli that you use that is not glazed. Kli cheres, even expensive china, if it has no glaze, after one or two uses, is going to be stained. Now the Gemara says, and this is a Machab and Shulchan Aruch and Tafrei Shayin Gimel, a menorah of kli cheres you can't use because you have to use it once. It's all mius. If you have a kli cheres earthenware and use it for hot food, or hot drinks, for hot coffee, after 2 or 3 uses, it's going to be a black cup. The glaze is there for 2 reasons: to protect that it shouldn't crack or nick, and also it should be aesthetically pleasing. If you're going to have a cheres, it's going to get stained, start to smell, it's going to have a blia, because don't forget, cheres is extremely porous, extremely absorbent. So here's the metzias. The metzias is that the coffee cups, china, bone china, all of it is glazed entirely. Bone china, the chachma bone china is they add bone to make it stronger. Now, bone is no different than cheres. They're both potter. So the problem is not the actual keli, but the glazing. So he quotes the vice president of Lenox, China. So you're talking about if the Haibana person, obviously, if he knows all about China. So he says that the purpose of glazing is not merely ornamental. It's to protect the surface. It shouldn't be nicked or scratched. And also, it should be non-absorbent and easy to clean. Both of them are benefits of the keli. And that's why, if you look in the Paiskim, why is tzipoy chayiv in tefillah? Because the tzipoy is there to protect the keli, and also to make it more gishmak to eat. And that's why it's pashit that on glazed cups, or the china, bone china, that is glazed both inside and outside, avad is chayiv in tefillah. Now, to make a bracha, that we don't do. Because as early as the Pri Megadim, in the Arachayim Taf Nun Aleph, Mishpah Zav, Sivkot Lamed Aleph, Seif Der Maskell, Kli Cheres, writes that only Mitzupah Eiver is chayiv, Mitzupah Zechuchais is potter. So today, bone china and bone china is Mitzupah Zechuchis, maybe even a little less than Mitzupah, it's glazed. And that's why we could definitely say comfortably that porcelain and china are both the same. It's just a better quality. China is a better quality than porcelain. But porcelain, china, and coffee mugs are basically glazed with a glass coating, and it's no different than mitzupah zechuchis, bechutz umi bafnin, and it's chayiv and tefillah without a brach. The Aruch HaShulchan himself, who does not know why you table porcelain, he says beferish, if you'll tell me that the olden days it was glazed, then you have to make it, you have to table it, because glazed is chayiv without a bracha. But he was talking about apparently a total kli cheres. Now that's hard for you to understand the metzias. But one thing I will tell you, the Aruch HaShulchan himself concedes, if it's glazed, it's chayiv b'daban. More so, and this no one could say until recently, but when they reprinted the Rabbi Yankov Emner's Mor Ketziyah, the Seif on Archaim, so in Taf Nun Aleph, Ha'ara 8, it's also printed in the New Friedman Shulchan Aruch, Yeridea, on the page, they found in the original Shilas Yaivitz, what belonged to the Yaivitz, the one he owned, he added a footnote to his own sefer. When he wrote in Siman Samach Zayin that porcelain is potter from Tevilah, he writes the following, they have B'Ksav Kotche. Shuv hig hugedli mishel beis Abba, from his father, the Chacham Tzvi, she'avi mari hayim matzvichan Tevilah, v'tzvichan anu lachash ledivrei hazakin, v'yesh latpilan b'lai bracha. So here we see both the Yavitz and the Aruch HaShulchan, who are quoted as Makilim, concede that if it's plated, if it's glaziert, if it's glazed, avad it's chayiv in Tevilah b'lai bracha. Now, the truth is, some people might say, I heard from my Rav that it's potter. Let me tell you where perhaps that Rav is coming from. The Rabbi Forst does mention that the glaziert of the glazed of today, the glaziert of today, has two interesting features to it. First of all, the glaze ends up being 1/500th of an inch. You know what an inch is this much. But the glaze actual covering is 1/500th of an inch. Maybe that's less than mitzupah. Mitzupah means there's a layer. And also, he says, when in the glazing process, and how do they glaze something? They take the glass powder, and they put it back in the kiln, and they fire it, and that melts the glass powder into the kli cheres. The glazing process, the glaze is partially dissolved into and becomes incorporated with the body itself. In other words, the glaze is not a layer above the cheres. The glazing becomes part of the cheres. So maybe that's not glaziert. Glaziert is a layer. But he does say that the poskim all say one should toivel it, b'lai bracha. But again, the glazed of today might be a little less chay than the glaziert of Amol. Now, Rav Vozna in the Tshuva Chelik Dalet Tzadik Aleph mentions the following ha'or. He says, let's make a cheshbon. Mitzupah, even mitzupah be'aver with metal, is only chayav d'Rabbanan. Now, glass at most is midrabbanan. So maybe when you have a mitzupah with glass, is like 2 d'Rabbanans. So Rav Vozna says, although I'm not saying you're potter, but if you have a suffix mitzupah zchuchas if you're chayiv or not, so then you can say it's a suffix in 2 d'Rabbanans. So we will say if someone has a real suffix that his china is not glazed, again, which is highly improbable, but if he has if he knows for sure, or he has a real suffix, you could be makel. But the typical porcelain china, bone china that's glaziert, that's glazed inside and outside, we should definitely toivel it without a bracha. A coffee mug is chayiv tefillah midrabanan without a bracha. A very good mashal today. The crock pots come with a ceramic insert, and that's made of cheres, but it's glazed inside and outside, and it's chayiv without a bracha. Grad that many of these ceramic inserts have a Pyrex glass cover. That's chayiv and tefillah. Avad chayiv midrabanan, also regular glass. So you could make a bracha on the glass cover and toivel the ceramic with the same bracha. Now, Pyrex and Duralex, I should mention, are basically glass with certain type of, it's a boro silicate to reduce expansion, as they want to keep it thin, but it's basically a glass substance, so it's chayiv midrabanan with the bracha. Crystal was just glass with oxide that's added, and avad that's chayiv in tefillah with the bracha. A very interesting twist where this mitzupah takes an interesting turn. Today it's extremely popular. They have Teflon coated pots. Now what does that mean? The pots are basically metal that are chayiv and tefillah midaraisa. But here's the catch. You want to make it that it shouldn't stick, it shouldn't burn. They add a Teflon coating. What is Teflon? Teflon is plastic. So now you have an interesting heichatimtza. The pot itself is chayiv and tefillah midaraisa. But the tzipui is potter. So that's why a Teflon coated pot, you should toivel it without a bracha. The food only touches the plastic, but don't forget, when you have a pot, the ick of the pot is the metal. We'll soon see a raya to this, but basically the fact that the metal is the main part of the keli, you look at the metal as the keli, the tzipui taka takes away from the chi of deraisa, but it's chayiv tefillah without a bracha. The question that we began with, a metal tongue that have a plastic tipping, that's coated by plastic on the edges of it. So the truth is the food only touches the plastic part of it. Fine. But the maisa, the main part of the keli, is metal. And that's why this would be very similar to a Teflon coated pot. You would tevel this tangs without a bracha. Rather, a metal tangs, if it's koolei metal, you make a bracha on it. Even though you don't eat with it, but you use it to prepare the food, it's no different than a mixing keli, and therefore you chayiv and tefillah with a bracha if it's all metal. If it has a plastic edge to it, it's tefillah without a bracha. What comes to mind, to explain this a little better, the Shulchan Aruch discusses you have a steak knife. Now the fancy steak knives are metal, of course, blade, and a wooden handle. So the Mechabin Kuf Chaf Sif Yud Beis writes you have to tevel the entire knife and the metal and the wooden handle. Wood is potter from tefillah, but since it's one keli, you have to tevel the entire keli. In fact, the place we have to remove the chatzitza from the wooden handle because chayiv and tefillah. So the truth is, this would be very similar to our case, whether it's Teflon pot or a tipping on a tangs. Now, of course, the lam don't say, wait a minute, it's not really true, because here, the case of the mechaber, the metal is touching the food. Here it's fakir, the plastic is touching the food. Okay, but it's the same principle. One keli, you look at the whole keli, and you tevel it. In that case, you tevel it without a bracha. What used to be a pretty popular shayla, you'll see if you have those still Pesach dishes, it's called a enameled pots, which basically is a metal pot that has a coating, a painting, usually it's white, and after a while, when it's seen better days, the paint chips, you could see the original pot. So this is basically, sounds like glazed, but again, a cooler, because the pot is metal, the glazing is paint. Paint is part of tefillah. The Marsham in Chelik Gimel Siman Chaf writes that this tzipoi, which is cheres, he assumed that the paint is of a cheres substance, that makes it chayiv and tefillah without a bracha. The original pot would be chayiv midaraisa, but since it has a glazed inside and outside, it's like somewhere in between. You tevel it b'loi bracha. Rabbi Forst in his sefer does quote from the chairman of the porcelain industries that today it's very possible that the paint that they use is very similar. It's a compound of a glass type. So it's possible that even the coating is chayiv and tefillah, because glass is chayiv. But he says, Lamaisa, we follow the Marsham, if you have an enameled pot, it's chayiv and tefillah without a bracha. I should mention that today we have many coffee cups, especially you keep in the car, that it's basically plastic, the cover's plastic, the inside's plastic, and the outside, for some reason, is metal. That is one keli. So even though the food never touches the outside metal, but it's part of the keli, you should tevel that cup b'loi bracha. Because part of it is metal, and you look at part of it, at least the mechayev a tefillah without a bracha. Now, lemaisa, it's possible, even the mechabel you have to tevel is b'loi bracha, because this is not just a mere tzipui, this is an actual part of it is metal. The question that I saw recently, today, dips are very popular, different types of dips, and you don't want to bring a dip to the Shabbos table, so you have what's called, I guess this is my name for it, I don't know if there's a better name, a dip holder. You put the dips into a silver or a metal holder, you bring it to the table. So you have to tevel that quote unquote dip holder. So the truth is that it's holding the dips, but it's not part of the dip. It's basically like what the Mechaber speaks about, a tripod that you used to put the pot onto a tripod. So even though it's very important, but it's not part of the pot. This is not part of the keli. I mean, the dip is part because it's plastic, and this holds a keli. So this would not be chayiv and tefillah. It's very similar to today. We have a host of questions, food processor, etc., grinders, etc., that basically the keli itself is plastic, but the removable parts, the metal blades, the metal shredder, the metal slicer, is metal. So whenever you have detachable parts, you look at each part separately. So the food processor itself does not need tefillah. The detachable blades does need tefillah. So here in the dip holder, it's fakert. The dip holder is separate, the dip is separate, so there's no chi of tefillah. I should mention that there are certain kelim that are one piece. I know for a fact, in hand blender, you plug it in and you blend with it, it's all one piece. The metal blades do not detach from the blender. That you have to tevel the whole thing. That's not different than a steak knife. You have to tevel the wooden handle. So the best thing is to do it properly. You tevel it. shake it out, wait till it dries, and you won't have a problem. A potato peeler, today it's very popular, you put the potato on and it rolls around, and it turns around. So the entire keli is not chayiv and tefillah. The blade, the small little part that has the metal blade that you cut with, that's chayiv and tefillah. And Achen Chav, I think we should find this certainly very relieving, is the old question of disposable aluminum pans. Now, Lamaisa, when you talk about disposable, there is that question, the fact that you throw it away, maybe doesn't have a Shem Keilim. So, Tevilas Keilim is based on Keilim. A disposable item, says Rav Moshe in the Tshuva, and Chelik Yardeh, Chelik Gimel, Simon Chav Beis, and the Minchas Yitzchak also says this, since it's disposable, doesn't have a Shem Keilim. Now, others take issue. Lamaisa, you're using it. It's a pot. But we could add today another tzad to be makel in disposable aluminum pans. The fact that it's aluminum, and don't forget some paiskim seem to suggest aluminum is potter, and even if you hold it's chayiv, it's no more than a derabanan, and we even said not to make a bracha on an aluminum pot. So now that you have a disposable aluminum pan, you have two strong svaras to be makel. Number one, disposable is potter. And even if you don't like that, aluminum is potter. Now we're not going to say aluminum pot is potter, but a disposable aluminum pan, you could be saimech lahakol and guten tag to you all. That's regular glass. It's regular glass. Corel is a regular glass, by the way, so it's Kaya. Corel is a regular glass. Hey, hey, hey. No, it's not acid food. You table it, of course. You have to table it, and once you table it, then the whole thing is kosher.
Like a cup. Let's say a cup. The outside is metal, and inside is plastic.
So you table because of the outside, sure. Because of the outside, sure. I got a bracha right after you from
I
Yankee.
know, you told me.
Good.
Yeah. Before you mentioned about the airplane with the kind of, now you, what you were saying, like you were saying, that you said it was aluminum, but the mace could be there?
No, Moshe is as far as Hilchas Tum, but Ma'aseh, they're not made. What do you do?
I don't go in the LL. If I do, I go in the LL. I go only from Newark, but they're mason from Newark.
Yeah. Ma'aseh, look, we're not saying on that. They're not saying on that. Moshe speculates.
But there is somebody in the Giza head that got them wrong. And I asked him double things. He told me he heard about it, but no one gave me the truth or something. So he
Can't talk about it.
No, he's not getting. He said he shouldn't do it.
And Moshe the Lumbus said, Simcha, 1 minute we'll talk, okay? Yeah, that's it.
I just want to sum it up. Peeler, potato peeler. Needs peeler? Well, I'm asking. You said plastic
The
doesn't.
truth is, he might be right. If it's only used for potatoes, you don't, and that's not the final finished product.
Yeah. You use it?
Cucumbers also. No, right.
Of course,
Table with the
apples
broccoli.
use it for cucumbers.
Yeah, table with the broccoli. It prepares food.
You said plastic does not need peeler. Plastic like this needs peeler?
Needs sreifa.
This is Tevel V'Shez B'Yudot.
This mutzmach was me.
Yeah.
So in kiss.
The muscles kids.
By an aluminum pot, or a solid pot.
Yeah.
So if a person will table it, then it's
Loy bracha.
lower.
Me,
Wow.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know what plastic is made out of. I never saw petroleum prepared this. I just know
Do
one
us
thing.
that. Do us that. Maybe this
I know.
Maybe
By
it's
now,
also this is wool.
humans already.
This is wool. This is plastic. This is plastic. This is
I look
plastic.
at the price.
Nylon.
We aluminum versus plastic. You're going to say that plastic is closer because after all these things. I know one thing. Looks like metal, tastes like metal, it acts like metal, conducts heat like metal,
So why do
electricity
why
like
Basa leave it
metal.
out? Didn't have it.
I don't know what metal means. No clue. What is metal?
Sheish matches.
What does metal mean? What's the definition of metal? What's the definition?
Torah says, Zav, Kesef, Faishes, Dil, Eteres, and Roma, iron. Whatever.
What's the
No, Dil is tin.
Where's iron?
Tin.
It's metal. Bars, okay, bars.
What's the difference between cast iron and
Cast iron is a form of iron. That's
tin?
metal. You know,
So what's the difference?
you have to know.
I talked it out.
Where do you get metal from? They dig and find metal. It's called ore. Ore, it means that it's mixed up with the impurities, and they have to purify it. The Maisa Teres spoke about 6 metal.
And
Gram
aluminum is?
is also a metal. Same thing.
Sure.
But it's left it out. The Moshe's and Munis Chachamim was that the Bernstein, Chazal, the Bernstein knew there's something called aluminum. He could have said the Torah, Zav, Gezrez, and alum, or pickles, I don't know what they're called. And you would say for there is, what is this? Oh, I can't
I'm not
believe
talking about glass now. It should be at least as much as glass. But much more than plastic.
Mostly says it quotes of Chaim. I wonder what a Chaim was.
That's what copper is like. Copper.
Precious.
When you have hot water, it comes out to a plastic.
If it's one piece, you table that.
The
Table
water, that's not have to metal.
one piece, you table the whole thing. That's the material.
Even though the mice is bottom of plastic, it comes out of
It's
plastic.
different. It's different.
And the Keilim's plastic.
The water gets cooked in the keilim, and the maisa. If it's one piece, you look at it like one keilim.
It was metal.
It's mostly metal. Yeah, Simcha, ready? We'll make a quick secret now we can go. And next question. You want to get? Simcha, ready? Rebel is plastic. Glass. I will. Good. Very good. Try it. There you go. Simcha. Yakov, go ahead. I didn't see you.
But it says Sikkim of today's share, just take a few minutes. Go ahead.
Just we learned today, Bez Hashem, Tevilas Keilim, we could assume is a mitzvah deraisa, based on the pasuk, the toher. It's to bring to Kedushas Yisrael, and that's why it's only Kli Oichel, because what we eat becomes part of us, and we need more Kedusha. But basically, the Torah defines Tevilas Keilim by the Sheish Matchas, the 6 metals, gold and silver, iron, tin, lead, and copper. And basically, by those 6 things, if it's Kli Oichel, you're Mechoyev in Tevilah Deraisa. Of course, you make a bracha, and the assumption is even Misafik you have to table it, because Tzveika Deraisa L'chumr. Anything that's not from the Sheish Matchas, for example, earthenware, Kli Cheres, wood or bone is not sheish matchis, and it's not chayiv in tefillah. It's like a sheish suma boyim ke'echad, dafka these 6, and not wood, bone, or cheres. And the Gemara clearly says cheres is potter from tefillah. There's no reason to table it, and of course it's just a waste of time. The question is glass, which is not wood, bone, but it's not one of the metals. That the Gemara says, since it's efshe batacha, which is a key word, the key principle, that you could repair it, you could melt it, smelt it, and repair it. So the fact that it's similar to glass, to metal, kekli matchis dami, and glass, that's efshe batacha, is chayev midrabanan, but tefillah, just like metal. In fact, you make a bracha on it, it's not a deraisa, because the Torah doesn't say it, but it's a clear-cut din ha-gemara, chiyav drabanan, no different than other chiyuvei drabanan. Aluminum is already a question, because it's not from the sheish matchis, it's not glass, it's not wood, it's not stone, but the Paiskim assume that it's at least chayav midrabanan, because it's metal. It's not in the sheish matchis, because obviously they didn't have it, but it seems that a person is safe, you should table it, an aluminum pot, but without a bracha. Again, Rav Vosna holds to make a bracha, I can understand where that's coming from, once is a chiyuv. But definitely, aluminum is not a chiyuv deraisa, it's not from the sheish matchis. Stainless steel is mostly iron, and it's chayav, and Moshe holds you go basaroiv. So even if there are other mixtures, but the dominant part of it is metal, is the iron. Plastic, the minig is not to tovel it, although Paiskim hold to, there's a chiyav, hamachmer tavel bracha, but the minig oilam is not to tovel plastic. Coated, that's with metal on the outside and inside, is chayiv tefillah with the bracha, coated of any of the sheish matches. Porcelain and china is coated, is glazed, but it's with a glass coating, not with a metal coating. So at most, porcelain and china is chayiv tefillah without a bracha. If you have a ceramic dish that is not glazed, an unglazed ceramic dish, it's a regular cheres and it's definitely potter. But more often than not, ceramic dishes are plated. The ceramic dish of an insert of a crock pot is chayiv and tefillah without a bracha because it is glazed. Plus you have the glass cover that's chayiv. But basically, crystal and pyrex are a chayiv tefillah because that's glass. I should have mentioned Corel is also a glass that's chayiv and tefillah. Teflon coated pots, which is metal with a plastic coating, you tovel without a bracha. A metal tongs is chayiv and tefillah. If it has a plastic tip, it's chayiv tefillah without a bracha. Enamel pots that are coated with paint, the minig is a tovel without a bracha. A coffee cup that's plated, that's glazed inside and outside should be tovel without a bracha. A dip holder, so to speak, or anything that holds another keli, even if it's metal, is not chayiv and tefillah because it's not the actual kli eichel. Removable parts of a food processor or any electric appliance, you will tovel the parts that are metal, that are removable. The rest of the keli does not need tefillah. If you have one keli, a hand blender, tovel it, shake it out, make sure it dries well, and you could reuse it, there won't be a problem. Aluminum pans, we have another tzad to be makel. Besides that, it's disposable, but some see aluminum is less of a chiv. Okay. Okay. 3 weeks from tomorrow. It's June 18th. The face English day. Okay.
Well, only have English there.
I'll bring the